Hey y'all, it's me. I'm so excited about tonight. Oh my gosh. So welcome to the Glow Up Is, and I am your host, Toya. And tonight, y'all, I just wanted to kind of get on here and talk about we've been talking about relationship with self in these last few episodes. Last week we talked about the old us, right? And holding ourselves accountable and not looking at the past, not allowing our past selves to affect our future selves. But on today, man, listen, God had me work on some more when it comes down to spirit and it comes down to flesh. So I know that I can't be the only one that's going through these different things. Like sometimes you want to lay hands on people, and I ain't talking about praying for them. I'm talking about actually laying hands on them. But at the same time, God has really um, unctioned you to try and do the right thing. And I am blessed, truly, because God has really brought me a mighty, mighty long way. Like when I say He's brought me a long, long way, yeah, He's brought me a long way. But I still don't get it twisted, right? Because I have my moments. And tonight is all about that because sometimes y'all what ends up happening is that we out here lifing, right? We out here lifing, things is coming at us, throwing at us all types of different ways, but we choose how we respond. We choose um to do the right thing. And so on tonight, man, I'm gonna be touching on flesh versus spirit. Listen, the flesh is so weak. The flesh can get you in a lot of trouble because we're used to the flesh. We're used to all of the things that make us feel good. Our senses are dangerous. But God gave it to us, right? And so the reality is that He wants us to discipline ourselves. So we have to be very, very, very mindful of how we respond or how we react, right? Due to our senses and the things that we feel, which is our feelings, right? Which is our physical touch. Our nose can get us in trouble because we smell different things, right? I mean, if we can smell all different types of aromas, whether or not if it's on people, whether or not if it's on food, and if we overdo stuff, right? Even with food and eating, we could be doing too much, and that causes us to sin. And then also too, right? We smell people. Sometimes, you get a little scent. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But at the same time, right? We have to know our triggers and be true to ourselves. And so that's what tonight is about because guess what? In order to glow, we have to grow. So um, when I think about that and I think about if you need some background and some scripture, I'm coming from Romans chapter 7. It's in Romans chapter 7. And Paul is actually talking, right? And what Paul is basically saying is that, I'm going through this. I've accepted you, God, in my life, right? I've accepted you and I know wrong from right. However, these senses that you gave me, right? This flesh that you gave me, want to do some things. This flesh of mine want to do some things. And sometimes I don't have any control over the things that I do or the thoughts that I have because I want to react and I want to respond. But if I respond, then what may end up happening is that my spiritual man may be affected. So it's not the spirit that's working, but it's the flesh because the flesh it feels good in that moment but there's some repercussions, right? There's some consequences that's going to come at the end of the day. Stay with me. So I was like, wow, Paul is saying, look, those things that I want to do, I don't do them, but I keep doing the things that's wrong because they feel good to me. So what I started doing was I started putting myself in Paul's shoes and I was like, well, great day. I have my moments too because I'm ready to go out here and, do what I want to do, right? Especially when it pertains to certain situations. I'm like, all right, God, look, I'm praying, I'm praying, I'm praying, I'm praying, I'm praying, I'm praying, you know? But sometimes it's not easy, right, to not get offended. It's not easy to deal with people who um are messed up people, especially even to Judas, right? And I sit there and I think about Judas, um, and Jesus knowing what like what Judas was gonna do, right? But he also knew what we were gonna do. He also knows what we do, and yet he still loves us. He's still there, and sometimes we have to take accountability for the things that we have to that we've made, the choices that we made. We have to take accountability. We have to take ownership, and sometimes taking ownership and accountability don't feel good. But I'm gonna tell you one thing, and I think my friends can attest to this, and people who know me can actually attest to this. When you wrong, and I'm gonna tell you that you wrong. I'm gonna say it in love, and I'll even try to take you to the side and try to have a conversation. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt that it was an older version of me that was fleshly, right? Who didn't care what was said out of my mouth or who I said it in front of. Now I'm more mindful. I think it's just an older thing, right? And so that's what the grow to glow up is. That's what the grow to glow is, right? Is that we can admit our shortcomings, but at the same time, we have to be mindful of disciplining and mindful of what we're putting out there to not continue. Because also in Romans 7, if you continue to read on, Paul also tells you that it's not the spirit that's working in you, but it's the flesh. But he's saying, how can I even become spiritual, right? If I'm not in the spirit. So if I'm not in tune with my spirit, right, and greater is He that lives in me. If I'm not in tune with myself, and I'm not in tune with the God that lives in me, there's no way that I'm capable of living my true life. There's no way that I'm capable of even trying to do the right thing because my flesh is going to continue to do what it's used to doing, which is doing wrong sometimes because we learn habits. We talked about this last week. We talked about our habits. Our habits can get us in trouble because we're so used to doing it. It's a cycle, it's a pattern. And even if we don't learn from it, right, the enemy is there because the enemy sees every single thing that we do. He knows our weaknesses, right? Because we all have a past. So he knows how to dress that man up. He knows how to dress that woman up, make her smell good. Yep, the senses. Here come the senses again. Knows how to, get them to say the right things that you need to say because you gave him all of the clues in the world. You've been through all of these different things. And you keep saying, why am I attracting the same type of man? Why am I attracting the same type of woman? Because there's some things inside of you that you got to get rid of. It's some things inside of you that you got to let go. How you gonna grow? How you gonna get to the next level if you can't even pass the test? We keep doing the same things over and over and over and over again, but yet we're not where we're supposed to be spiritually. We keep allowing our flesh to overcome. We keep allowing our flesh, sometimes we continue to say, like, oh, it's okay. We're just human. It's all right. We're just human. And God is like, no, that's not what it is. Because when you decided to give your life to me and you want accountability, right? Because this walk is not easy. The walk is not easy, but the walk is for others and for you. It's not about you. Because when you say, look, God, I'm giving you my life, because that's what this is all about, right? Is giving God your life, but then also opening you up to spiritual awareness. Because we are spirit. We were spirit before we were flesh. And that's a reality, right? Because God tells us that I knew you. I knew you. Like before you were in your mother's womb. I knew you before you had a name. That is awesome for me to even think about, right? Like, God, you knew me before this. So you knew how these senses were going to work. You knew that I was going to go through all of these different things, but yet you still love me. You still love me. Some of us is out here looking for love, don't even know how to love. Woo! That part right there. You see what I'm saying? Because our flesh tells us what we think we know what love is, right? And the reality is that we don't take time enough to spend with love in order for us to even understand what love is, to even love ourselves, to even give it. So that part in itself, and I'm talking about that's not even just in relationships, right? With a man and a woman, or a woman and a man, doesn't, all of that, it doesn't matter, right? This is also in friendships, right? Because we have to be a good steward in everything that God gives us. Some of us got men now. Some of us got women now that we don't even treat right. We don't even give them the love that it is that they truly deserve, because we've never received the love that God says you do deserve. See, God tells you that you deserve his love, but because you don't want to receive his love, you can't even fathom having somebody else to love you. So it's hard for you to receive the love that God has for you through another person. So how can you even accept that love? So what ends up happening is, because we're not used to these things, is that our flesh begins to arise and our flesh begins to get the best of us. Because guess what? We get so caught up in experiences. And then next thing you know, we get in these situations, right? And we get in these past relationships, they become exes, but they become experiences, right? And instead of learning from them, we continue to go through them again, and we take that same mess into the next relationship, right? When this man was not even supposed to be a part of your purpose, right? But you done opened your legs up. You done did all these extra things, right? And I ain't even talking about just the women. I'm just saying even to the men too, right? Like you are literally allowing somebody to experience you, and that's not even called to you. Like sometimes what ends up happening is that we come across people and they are the assignment. They're not a part of the purpose. Like they are not your partner in purpose. Let's put it that way. They're not your partner in purpose. They are a part of the purpose, right? Because sometimes they actually help grow you along the way. However, God does not need a mediator. God does not need anybody to help you grow anything when it pertains to partnership in purpose. Did you hear what I just said? God doesn't need anybody to do that because he does it all on his own. And some of us haven't even received his love. So because we haven't received his love, then it takes all of the damaged goods. It takes all of us, right, who have gone in these relationships. And y'all, when I'm talking to y'all, I promise you I'm talking to myself, because it's some things that we have to learn. It's some things that we had to go through, right, in order to see the light. And I feel like sometimes that's what has to happen. Sometimes we go down these wrong roads and we don't even realize we made the wrong choice until we're in it. And then we get all of these signs and we still stay. Who does that? You're not growing. You're not growing mentally. You're not growing emotionally. This man ain't pouring into you. This woman ain't pouring into you. She's a headache. She's a pill. He's a pill. He's adding more gray hairs to you, and you're not even 40 years old yet. I'm just saying. She adding stuff to you, adding stress to you, and you ain't even 40 years old yet. Nobody has it correct. Nobody is perfect, right? But God says, I want to perfect your imperfections. So will you allow me to do it, right? Because some of us, listen, the flesh is something that can be really, really terrible. Okay, if we allow it to, because I'm gonna tell you something. Listen, Toya got a mouth. I got a mouth on me. Okay, and it takes a special kind of person to understand my mouth, right? But it also takes me, Latoya, to do the work to say, okay, where's this stemming from? Where is the root and the cause of this? Where was I exposed to this? Because guess what? We all have triggers. We all have things that we've done and things that we've dealt with, right? But in order for us to grow, we have to take accountability. We have to take ownership and say, you know what? I can't do this like this no more. And this is what Paul was calling us to do. He said, listen, the spirit is working too, but the spirit can only work if you spend time with it. You get what I'm saying? So you have to spend time with God in order to really understand you. It all goes right back to the first episode of identity. Listen, we're in an identity crisis. The world is trying to tell you who you are, whose you are, what to wear, what to do. This looks good on you. This looks good on this. And you should have this type of man. You should have this type of woman. She should have this type of body. He should have this type of body. He should be making this amount of money. He should have a good credit score. And I'm not saying all of these things are bad, y'all. I'm not saying that at all. But how in the world are you out here looking for a 10, sweetie, and you ain't even a 10? In who eyesight are you a 10 besides God? And I'm not saying again that you're, that you just shouldn't aim high or you should look at yourself as beneath when you are the head, right? But there are some things inside of you that still need work. Like you still need God, just like I do. We in the same boat. We in the same boat. You see what I'm saying? Now it's levels though to this thing, right? And so it may be some things that I've overcome that maybe you haven't overcome yet. but we're in this thing together because that's what the whole purpose of the glow up is at the end of the day. We're here to hold each other accountable. Not only are we here to hold each other accountable, but we're here to grow together because we got to glow. We got to allow our lights to shine because there's somebody that's waiting on us to cross paths, right? To actually see something in us, right? To do what it is that God has called them to do. Our purpose is so much bigger than us. It's not about us. But I tell you one thing, I don't want it if God ain't in it. If God is not a part of it, I don't want to be a part of it. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, I have my moments. I definitely have my moments. I have my moments when I'm in my feelings, and sometimes rightfully so, but I don't stay there long. I don't linger in my feelings. Because if I linger in my feelings, next thing you know, I begin to take things personally. And some of us, sometimes we really do need to reevaluate our situations. We really do because we listen to people who aren't even in relationships. We listen to people who aren't even relationship goals. Some of us still looking at love and hip hop. Some of us still looking at basketball wives, baddies, all of these different things. And this stuff, I'm not saying that it's not entertainment because listen, some of it is really pure entertainment for me. And I'd be listening, I'd be looking at some of this stuff and I'd be laughing my tail off. But in some instances, right, in certain circumstances, I'm like, well, dang, sis, like you brought this on yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, dang, why he put her in that type of situation? He knew that that's what he was trying to do. Like, why you manipulating her like that? You know what I'm saying? Because we all have triggers and we don't know what other people's situations are. And I don't know what your situation is right now. And it may be some things that you're dealing with, right? And it's some things that you've already gone through that I may not even have any idea of. But what I do know is that the flesh will consume you if you allow it to. Be mindful of the flesh because the flesh feels good. And a lot of times, things that do feel good to you and good to your flesh, just because it feels good doesn't mean that it's right. So that's a whole nother thing. And that's why I say it's so keen for us to be in the spirit because God says, try the spirit by the spirit. So if I'm trying the spirit, right, and I put that man and I put those thoughts into as far as a relationship, right, because we all want that. We don't want, a lot of people don't want to be by themselves. And I'm not saying that you have to desire to have a husband or a wife. I'm saying even in friendship, right? Nobody wants to be really alone. And that's right. God didn't create us to be alone. Like he didn't. He created you to have people around you. You're not an island by yourself. We all need people. You know what I'm saying? This is not an easy thing because guess what? Life be life. But I always say, God be out here, God, man. God hasn't forgotten about you. The world wants you to think that God has forgotten about you. The world wants you to think that the things that you've already gone through, that's a mess. But it's a message in the mess. It's the message in the mess, but pay attention to the message. Because if you can't even receive the message that you've gone through, how in the world you expect somebody else to receive the message that you're trying to live? Did you hear what I said? How in the world are you expecting somebody else to receive the message that you are living, that you're trying to live? Okay, I'll wait. And that's a pause moment. That's a Selah moment where you're just like, okay, do I need to self reflect? And I do it all the time. I'm self reflecting, I'm self evaluating because I'm like, okay, God, what is it you have for me to do? I don't want to get in my own way. I want to do the right thing. I don't want to put hands on her. I don't want to cuss her out because I'm trying to do right. I'm trying to do the right thing, God. I'm really, really trying, God, but she tested me. He tested me. He's provoking me. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I put myself in this situation. Maybe I shouldn't have put myself in that situation. Maybe I shouldn't have been that vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? But I have to look at it from all different angles. And that's what God wants us to do. Because if we don't, we will continue to point the finger and make it seem like we ain't did nothing wrong. Like you ain't choose to be with this person when it's your choice. And God said, all I'm doing is revealing. I'm revealing it to you. You're not even as close to me and not in relationship with me as much as you should be, but I'm still giving you grace. I'm still showing it to you. I'm still revealing people to you, but I want you to be in alignment with me, but you can't even get in alignment with me because you're so concerned about, oh, he makes me feel good. Oh my God, what am I going to do without him? What would my life be like by myself? When God says, maybe I want you to be by yourself. You can't even stay in the spirit long enough to even know whether or not if he wants you by yourself in this season. And it's seasonal. Seasons are temporary. That means that another season is coming in right behind that. Don't get so caught up in the time. that you miss out on lifetime experiences, man. You miss out on lifetime experiences because you're so exposed to the time. You're so exposed to the season. That's not what God called us to do. God is trying to take us higher. He wants the best for us. And I challenge you on today, man. Look at yourself first. Look at yourself first on today, because I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm right here with you. I'm right here with you. I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay, let's pause. Let's think about the things that Toya wants. Let's think about the things that God wants. Is that an alignment? Are we in agreement? Because see what God's word says and what I say is different than what God says. But when I'm in alignment, right, the things start to add up and things start to line up. And God begins to show you. But then what happens is when you in the spirit, right, you become more spiritual. So then what happens is you got enough of the spirit that's in you, enough of the word that's in you, because God is the word, right? So if you got the word in you, even when those things do come, those tests, those trials do come, guess what happens? You have enough to fight it off. And then the enemy is like, well, wait a minute. She ain't even falling for those old antics anymore. Yep, she ain't falling for those antics. Or no, he ain't falling for those antics. Why? Because you try the spirit by the spirit, because you took the time to say, I'm going to spend a little bit more time with God. So that's what it's all about, y'all. That's what it's all about. So, man, this was really great. On tonight, man. Y'all listen, I can keep going and going and going because relationships is my thing. And I'm so glad that we're on the topic of relationships. I truly, truly believe, man, that in order to grow, right, we have to deal with self and we have to be true to thyself. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to know thyself. Like we really, really have to know what it is that irks me. What is it that gets me, to that place, or what takes me over the edge, or another person shouldn't just know those things that irk you. You should know those things that irk you, and you should be able to take accountability for the things that it is that the choices that you make. You choose how you respond, you choose how you react. And if you ain't supposed to be with that person, get out of that relationship. Like, what are you wasting time for? Your purpose partner may be waiting for you. And even friendships, they may be waiting for you. Some of us have fell in love with the assignment, the person that was just assigned to you, and you were supposed to help them grow in that way, but you'd have fell in love and you'd have put all your feelings, and you think you in love anyway, right? Because lust will have you lust, the flesh will have you feeling all different types of things, because the things that we lack in spirit, we lack in flesh. Did you hear what I just said? Even though it's not the same thing, right? There's two separate things, right? But because we yearn and we desire things that are in the flesh, that are not of spirit, right? We begin to seek those things out in the world, and they give us a temporary fix. But then we wonder why the things aren't working, and not why it's not satisfying. Why am I stagnant here? Why am I not growing anymore? God, where is it? What should I be doing, God? What's my next thing that you have for me? What's the next thing that you call me to do? What is it, God? But we can't sit down long enough to even get the instructions, to even understand what it is that God has called for us to do. Okay. All right. I'm done. I'm done. Listen, y'all have a good night. The glow up is real. Okay. The glow up is, but we got to grow up in order to glow up, because that's the reality. Like, we are lights, we are living lights, and we have to grow. We have to grow. But most of all, man, God wants us to glow, because that's what He's called for us to do. He's called for each and every single one of us to shine. And guess what? It's a lot of room for us all to shine and succeed and win. I want to see you win, sis. I want to see you win, bro. And I say that because I do. I really, really want to see you win. I really want to see the glow. I really want to see the shine. And that's what this is all about. Holding each other accountable. So guess what, y'all? I'm gonna let this light shine. Okay. All right, y'all. See y'all next week. Bye.